When you think about your life, you may notice something simple but powerful. Every day, you meet people, you speak to people, you listen to people, and you feel something because of people. Some people make you smile. Some people make you feel safe. Some people make you feel stressed or small or confused. And when you look at your life closely, you begin to understand that healthy relationships are not just a part of life. They shape your entire experience of the world. In this first part of our long story together, I want to take you into a simple moment, a moment that begins with a quiet morning, a cup of warm tea, and a thought that changed everything. It is a story about learning, about listening, and about becoming someone who can create healthier relationships with others and with yourself. So let's begin slowly, like a gentle walk on a peaceful road, and let the story open in your mind. The story begins with a young man named Daniel. Daniel lived in a small town, a place where the streets were calm, the neighbors knew each other well, and the mornings always smelled of fresh air and warm bread from the bakery at the corner. Daniel was not famous or extraordinary. He was just a simple young man trying to understand life. But there was something inside him, something many of us also have. Daniel wanted to be happy. He wanted to feel connected. He wanted to understand why some relationships brought peace while others brought pain. Every day he tried to be kind, he tried to listen, he tried to be patient, but sometimes he still felt lost when it came to the people around him. One morning, Daniel woke up earlier than usual. The sun was not fully in the sky yet, and a soft, warm light filled his small kitchen. He made himself a cup of tea, sat at his wooden table, and looked outside the window. The world looked calm. But inside his heart, there was a heavy question. Why do some relationships feel so difficult, even when we try our best? It was a simple question, but it stayed with him. And as he took a slow breath, he decided something quietly. He would spend one full day trying to understand this question. He didn't know where the day would take him, but something inside told him that if he listened carefully to people, to life, and to himself, he might discover something important. The first person Daniel met that day was Mrs. Harper, an old neighbor who lived 2 houses away. She was small, gentle, and always smiling, even when she moved slowly with her cane. Daniel liked her. She always spoke kindly, and whenever he greeted her, she made him feel warm, like a grandmother speaking to her grandchild. When he saw her that morning watering her flowers, he walked over and said hello. She looked up with a bright smile and said, "Good morning, Daniel. You look thoughtful today." Daniel laughed slightly because she could always read him well. He told her about his question, why relationships felt difficult even when people cared about each other. Mrs. Harper listened quietly, nodding slowly, and then said something surprising. "Healthy relationships," she said, "start with something very simple: presence. Just being here. Just being real." Most people listen to reply, but very few listen to understand. Daniel stood there, thinking about her words. He realized she was right. How many times had he listened while his thoughts were somewhere else? How many times had he spoken fast without truly hearing the person in front of him? As he continued walking through the neighborhood, Daniel kept thinking about presence. He tried to listen to the sound of the birds, to the small noise of leaves moving in the wind, to the distant sound of a car driving by. It felt different. It felt slow, calm, alive. And in that moment, he understood something small but meaningful. If he wanted healthier relationships, he would have to learn to be present, not only with others, but with himself. He would have to slow down, breathe, and give his attention fully. It sounded simple, but he knew it wasn't always easy. A little later, Daniel reached the park. This park was special to him. It was the place he went to when he felt stressed or confused. There was a big tree in the center, tall and confident, with branches that opened like long arms ready to hold the world. He sat under the tree, closed his eyes, and thought about his past relationships, friends he had lost, people he had argued with, moments when he felt misunderstood. He tried to see each memory slowly, like watching a movie in his mind. He noticed patterns. In many moments, he hadn't spoken honestly because he was afraid of hurting someone. In other moments, he had reacted too quickly because he felt insecure. And in some situations, he didn't listen deeply because his own thoughts were louder than the person speaking. He felt a little sad, but also hopeful. This was the first time he could see these moments clearly, without judgment, without fear. When he opened his eyes, he saw a father and daughter playing with a ball nearby. The little girl was laughing loudly, running in circles, and the father was trying to catch her. They looked so happy, so connected. Daniel watched them, curious. What made that relationship look so healthy? It wasn't money. It wasn't perfection. It was the simple way the father looked at his daughter, with full attention, full presence, and full love. The girl felt safe, seen, and valued. And in that moment, Daniel understood something deeper. Healthy relationships grow when people feel seen, when they feel heard, and when they feel respected for who they are, not for who someone wants them to be. Later in the afternoon, Daniel walked to his favorite cafe. The cafe was small, warm, and always smelled of cinnamon. He ordered a simple drink and found a seat near the window. While he was enjoying the quiet moment, he noticed a couple sitting across from him. They were speaking softly, but their faces told two different stories. The woman looked tired and a little sad. The man looked frustrated and annoyed. They were talking, but it didn't feel like a conversation. It felt like two people talking to walls. The woman's eyes didn't shine. The man's shoulders were tense. They were both speaking, but neither of them was truly listening. Daniel didn't know them, but he could feel the disconnect, and this made him think again about Mrs. Harper's words. Most people listen to reply, not to understand. He imagined what would happen if the man stopped talking for a moment and simply looked into the woman's eyes and said, "I hear you. I really hear you." He imagined how the woman might feel, maybe relieved, maybe safe, maybe understood for the first time in days. And then Daniel imagined the opposite. What if the woman spoke honestly about her feelings without fear, without hiding? Maybe the man would realize something he never noticed. Maybe they could rebuild like two people learning to be present again. Watching them, Daniel learned another new lesson. Healthy relationships are not perfect relationships. They are brave relationships. They are honest relationships. They grow not when people hide their emotions, but when people share them gently, clearly, and respectfully. When he finished his drink, Daniel walked toward the river at the edge of town. The sun was lower now, and soft golden light stretched across the water. He stood there quietly, watching the reflection ripple gently. In that peaceful moment, he felt something shift inside him. He realized that relationships become unhealthy not because people are bad, but because people are afraid of being hurt, afraid of being ignored, afraid of being rejected. But he also realized something stronger. Healthy relationships grow from courage. The courage to listen. The courage to speak honestly. The courage to show your real feelings. The courage to allow someone else to be human. And the courage to forgive. As he stood next to the river, Daniel remembered a friend he had lost years ago. They had argued about something small, but neither of them apologized. Neither wanted to appear weak. Neither wanted to take the first step. And slowly, the friendship faded. Daniel always regretted it. Now, standing there, he understood what went wrong. They didn't communicate. They didn't listen. They didn't open their hearts. They didn't try to understand each other's feelings. And, because of that, something beautiful was lost. He looked at the water again and whispered softly, "I want to be better. Not perfect. Not flawless. Just better. Better at listening. Better at understanding. Better at being present. Better at expressing kindness. Better at giving space when someone needs space. Better at being honest when honesty is hard. Better at forgiving when forgiveness feels heavy. Better at being a friend, a partner, a son, a human. As the sky turned orange and purple, Daniel began walking home. His mind felt clearer, but his heart felt full. He knew this was just the beginning of his journey. He had learned something important today. Healthy relationships don't happen by accident. They grow with attention, with patience, with small daily choices. They grow when people choose love over fear. When they choose understanding over pride. When they choose connection over ego. And as Daniel opened his front door, the world outside grew quiet. He sat at his table again, the same place where his morning began, and he closed his eyes. He breathed slowly and let all the lessons of the day settle inside him like warm light. He didn't solve every problem. He didn't figure out everything. But he discovered the first big lesson of healthy relationships. You must first learn to be present to yourself, to others, to the moment. He whispered softly to himself, as if making a promise, "Tomorrow, I will learn more. Tomorrow, I will try again." And with that simple thought, he felt something gentle inside, hope. A hope that he could grow into someone who builds healthy relationships, someone who listens deeply, someone who speaks kindly, and someone who loves with a brave, open heart. And so, the first day of his journey came to an end. A day of watching, listening, learning, and reflecting. A day that planted the first seed. A day that opened the door to something much bigger. And as the night settled over the quiet town, Daniel fell asleep knowing that he was stepping into a new chapter, one where he would learn the true importance of healthy relationships and how to bring that importance into every part of his life. The next morning began in a quiet, gentle way. The air felt softer, the sky looked bright but calm, and Daniel woke up with a peaceful feeling in his chest. It was the kind of feeling you get when you know something important is waiting for you, even if you don't know exactly what it is. He sat up slowly, stretched his arms, and thought about the promise he made to himself the night before. He had told himself that he would keep learning, keep exploring, and keep growing in the world of healthy relationships. And now, as the sun began to rise, he felt ready for the next step. He didn't know what he would discover today, but he knew one thing for sure. If he stayed curious and open, life would show him something meaningful. After washing his face and making a warm cup of tea, Daniel sat at his kitchen table again. It had become his small thinking space, a place where ideas felt clearer and where his heart felt steady. He closed his eyes for a moment and thought about what he had learned yesterday, the importance of presence. He remembered how simple it sounded at first, and yet how deeply it changed the way he saw the world by the end of the day. Today, he wondered what lesson life would bring next. He took a slow sip of tea, looked out the window, and let his mind rest in silence. When he stepped outside, the air felt fresh and light. The street was calm. And the first person he saw was his old neighbor, Mrs. Harper, once again sitting in her garden. She was trimming her small plants with gentle, careful hands. Daniel walked toward her with a warm smile. "Good morning, Mrs. Harper," he said. She looked up at him, her eyes soft and bright, and said, "Good morning, dear. You look a little different today. More peaceful." Daniel laughed softly and told her he had slept well. Then he told her he was continuing his journey to understand healthy relationships. She nodded slowly, as if she had expected that. "Good," she said. "Yesterday, you learned about presence. Today, maybe we'll learn about listening." Daniel felt a little curious. "Listening?" he asked. "But I listen all the time." Mrs. Harper smiled gently. "Do you?" she asked in a soft voice. "Or do you only hear the sound of words?" This question stayed in Daniel's mind even as he walked away. Listening and hearing, were they different? He knew that hearing was easy. You didn't choose to hear. It just happened. But listening, real listening, felt like something deeper. Something intentional. Something you had to choose. And he wondered if he had truly been listening to people in his life, or if he had only heard their voices without understanding their hearts. As he walked down the street, he decided that today he would pay attention to the way people spoke, not just the words they used. He wanted to listen with his mind, with his heart, and with his full presence. He made his way to the town center, where the streets were busier. People were walking quickly, talking loudly, laughing, hurrying, or just moving through another day. Daniel stood still for a moment and simply watched them. He listened to the sounds around him, the footsteps, the conversations, the buses, the bicycles. And something interesting happened. He began to notice small details. When two friends spoke to each other, he could see who was truly listening and who was waiting for their turn to speak. When a parent walked with their child, he could see if their attention was fully on the child or partly on their phone. When two coworkers discussed something, he could see their faces. One looked patient and curious, the other looked distracted and tired. Daniel started to realize that listening was not just about ears. It was also about eyes, face, attention, and energy. Real listening looked warm. It looked open. It looked calm. And the person who was being listened to usually looked relaxed and safe. But when someone wasn't listening, you could almost feel the distance between them. You could see the frustration in their shoulders, the sadness in their face, or the tension in their voice. And Daniel wondered how many times in his life he had made someone feel unseen without even knowing it. As he continued walking, he heard someone call his name. It was his childhood friend, Nora. She was sitting on a bench near the fountain reading a book. When she saw him, her face lit up. "Daniel," she said. "It's been so long." He walked over and sat next to her. They started talking, and she told him about her life, her job, her family, her recent challenges. Daniel listened quietly, and for the first time, he didn't think about what he wanted to say next. He didn't think about advice. He didn't think about his own stories. He simply listened. He watched her eyes, her hands, her expressions. He listened to the emotions behind her words, not just the words themselves. After a while, Nora stopped speaking and looked at him with surprise. "It feels really nice to talk to you," she said softly. "You're actually listening." Her voice sounded almost relieved. Daniel smiled gently and said, "I'm learning." She laughed, but her eyes showed something deeper, a kind of gratitude. And in that moment, Daniel realized how rare true listening was. How healing it could be. How powerful it was to give someone your full attention, even for a small moment. Nora continued talking, and Daniel continued listening, and the conversation felt calm, natural, and meaningful. Before they said goodbye, Nora placed a hand on his arm and said, "Thank you. I didn't know I needed someone to really hear me." Those words stayed with him like a soft echo. He walked away feeling lighter, as if he had given something valuable without losing anything. It felt almost magical. Later in the day, Daniel went to the library. It was one of his favorite places, a quiet room filled with warm light and endless stories. He wandered between the shelves, touching the books softly, thinking about all the lives written inside them. While he was there, he saw a young boy sitting at a table with his mother. The boy looked frustrated, tapping his pencil loudly, trying to explain something about his homework. The mother was nodding, but not fully watching him. She looked tired and distracted. Daniel could feel the boy's frustration rising. Eventually, the mother put down her phone and looked at him fully. She listened to his words slowly, repeating them to make sure she understood. In that small moment, everything changed. The boy's shoulders relaxed. His eyes softened. His face opened. He felt heard. Daniel smiled quietly, understanding something important. Children, adults, everyone, everywhere. We all want the same thing, to be understood. He thought about how many arguments in the world happen not because people disagree, but because people feel unheard. He remembered times when he himself had raised his voice, not because he wanted to hurt someone, but because he felt like no one was listening. And he realized something powerful. Healthy relationships grow when listening becomes more important than winning. Daniel left the library and walked toward the river again. It had become his place of reflection. When he reached the water, he sat on the same stone where he had sat the day before. He closed his eyes and thought about all the conversations he had ever had, conversations with friends, with family, with coworkers, with strangers. He thought about the times he listened well and the times he didn't. He thought about the moments he misunderstood someone because he didn't ask for clarity. He thought about the times he spoke with a busy mind instead of an open heart. With every memory, he felt a gentle shift inside him, like a puzzle slowly coming together. When he opened his eyes, the sky was bright and the light danced on the water. He whispered softly, "Listening is love." It felt true. He said it again, more clearly this time. Listening is love. Because when you listen deeply, you make someone feel safe. When you listen without judgment, you make someone feel accepted. When you listen with patience, you make someone feel valued. And when someone feels valued, they open their heart. They trust. They feel connected. And connection is the root of every healthy relationship. As he sat there, he realized something even deeper. Listening is not only something you do for others. It's something you also do for yourself. He asked himself quietly, how many times have I ignored my own feelings? How many times have I not listened to my own needs? He remembered moments when he felt tired but pushed himself too hard. Moments when he felt hurt but pretended everything was fine. Moments when he felt confused but didn't give himself time to understand why. He realized that a healthy relationship with others starts with a healthy relationship with yourself. And that healthy relationship begins with listening to your body when it's tired, listening to your mind when it feels overwhelmed, listening to your heart when it feels heavy or hopeful. Daniel stayed near the river for a long time, thinking quietly, breathing slowly. Every thought felt like a small step forward. He felt grateful for the day, grateful for the lessons, grateful that life had given him simple moments that carried deep meaning. As the sunlight shifted, he stood up and began walking home. On the way, he saw two people arguing near a bus stop. Their voices were loud, their faces tense. He walked past them slowly, not wanting to judge but wanting to understand. And it became clear to him, they were not angry because they didn't care. They were angry because they cared too much and didn't feel understood. It reminded him that behind every raised voice there is often a quiet pain, a fear, a need, a story. Before reaching his house, Daniel stopped at the bakery where the smell of fresh bread greeted him warmly. He bought a small loaf and started speaking with the woman behind the counter. She was cheerful but tired. As she handed him the bag, she said, "It's been a long day." Daniel looked at her gently and asked, "Are you okay?" The woman paused. She looked surprised, almost confused, as if she wasn't used to someone truly noticing her. She nodded softly and said, "I'm fine, just tired." Daniel smiled kindly and wished her a peaceful rest. As he walked away, she called out, "Thank you for asking." Her voice sounded warm. And he realized again how powerful listening could be even in small, simple moments with strangers. When Daniel finally reached home, the sky was turning the color of soft gold. He sat down at his table once more, placed the warm bread next to him, and took a deep breath. The day had been full, but in a gentle, meaningful way. He closed his eyes and reflected on what he had learned. He whispered slowly, "Listening is the door to understanding." He paused. Understanding is the door to connection. And connection is the door to healthy relationships. He felt grateful. He felt changed. He felt open. And as night began to settle around the quiet town, Daniel knew that he had taken another important step in his journey. Today, he had learned the second great lesson of healthy relationships. Listening with the heart is the foundation of every meaningful connection. The next morning, Daniel woke up to the soft sound of birds outside his window. The sky was light blue, and the sun seemed to stretch its golden fingers over the quiet town. As he sat up slowly and rubbed his eyes, he remembered the lessons of the last 2 days: presence and listening. He had begun to understand that relationships were not built on grand gestures or clever words, but on small, meaningful moments of attention and care. Today, he thought, perhaps the next step in this journey would be learning how to speak with honesty and kindness. Because listening without speaking only takes you halfway. If you want a relationship to grow, words must flow with truth and warmth. Words are bridges, they can connect or divide. And Daniel was ready to learn how to build these bridges carefully, gently, and fully. After making his morning tea, Daniel walked slowly to the park. He had grown to love this routine, this time with himself, observing life while noticing small details. The park was quiet, except for the soft rustling of leaves and the distant laughter of children playing. He walked along the familiar path, feeling the soft crunch of gravel under his shoes, and reflected on the meaning of speaking honestly. He remembered times when he had held back his words out of fear of upsetting someone, fear of being rejected, fear of showing weakness. He realized that silence can sometimes be safe, but it can also keep people distant. It can prevent the truth from being shared, prevent hearts from opening, and prevent relationships from deepening. As Daniel walked, he saw a young man struggling to carry a heavy bag. Without thinking, he went over and offered to help. "Here, let me help you with that," he said kindly. The young man looked surprised but grateful. "Thank you," he said quietly. As they carried the bag together, they exchanged a few words. Daniel noticed that the young man spoke carefully, almost cautiously, as if he had not been used to being treated with simple kindness. And Daniel thought to himself, this is part of speaking with honesty and kindness. Sometimes it is not only about what you say, but how you say it. The warmth in your tone, the gentle way your words flow, and the care you show all matter as much as the words themselves. Later, Daniel walked past a small cafe where he noticed a woman arguing quietly with the cashier. The woman looked frustrated, her eyebrows furrowed, and the cashier seemed confused and nervous. Daniel stopped and watched carefully, noticing how tension could rise even in small moments if words were not spoken with care. He realized that honesty without kindness can feel sharp. Words can be true, but if they are not gentle, they can hurt. And kindness without honesty can feel shallow. Healthy relationships require both truth and warmth together, like two colors blending to make a painting whole. Daniel thought about a conversation he had had with his friend Nora yesterday. He had listened fully, but he had not yet spoken about something important he had been feeling for a long time. As he walked home, he decided that honesty would be his goal today. He would speak what needed to be said, but he would do so with care and patience. Not in anger, not in haste, but with thoughtfulness, gentleness, and clarity. Speaking this way, he realized, was not always easy. It required courage. But courage is something you practice like a muscle, growing stronger with every effort. At home, Daniel wrote a small note to Nora, asking if they could meet again. He kept it simple and heartfelt, expressing that he valued their friendship and wanted to share something important. Writing helped him organize his thoughts, but he knew that speaking in person would carry more weight. Later that afternoon, they met at the park bench by the fountain. Daniel took a deep breath, looked into her eyes, and began to speak slowly. "Nora, there's something I want to say, something I have felt for a long time. I value our friendship, and sometimes I feel I have not been honest about how much it matters to me. I hope you can hear me." His voice was calm, but his heart was open. Nora listened quietly, nodding, her eyes reflecting understanding. Daniel felt the weight of fear lifting from his chest. Speaking honestly had given him freedom, and speaking kindly had kept the connection intact. The conversation flowed naturally. He noticed that when he spoke from the heart, without rushing, without trying to impress, the words carried a new energy. They became bridges, as he had imagined before. And he realized another important lesson: honesty is most powerful when it comes from a place of respect. You do not need to force your words or dominate the conversation. Instead, speak your truth gently, like offering a gift. And when the other person receives it, even if they do not fully agree, a connection deepens because respect has been honored. Later that day, Daniel decided to practice speaking honestly and kindly with his family. During lunch, he noticed a small disagreement between his younger sister and their mother about chores. Instead of ignoring it or taking sides, he chose to speak calmly. "I think we all want to help each other," he said. "Maybe we can figure out a way that works for everyone." His words were simple, but the tone was careful and warm. His mother smiled softly, and his sister relaxed. Daniel realized that honesty does not need to be dramatic. It does not need to be loud. Even simple words, spoken with clarity and kindness, can calm tension and create understanding. As the afternoon light faded, Daniel took a walk through his neighborhood, thinking about all the conversations he had observed that day. He remembered the young man with the heavy bag, the woman in the cafe, his conversation with Nora, and the small moment with his family. Each moment taught him that speaking honestly and kindly was not a one-time event, it was a way of living. It was a habit to practice, a skill to refine, and a gift to share. Every word had weight. Every tone had meaning. And every opportunity to speak was a chance to strengthen a healthy relationship. When he reached the river, Daniel sat on the familiar stone once again, watching the water move slowly, reflecting the changing sky. He thought about courage, about honesty, and about kindness. He realized that people often fear being misunderstood or rejected, and this fear keeps them from speaking their truth. But avoiding honesty creates distance, misunderstanding, and silence. Speaking with kindness, on the other hand, softens the truth and allows connection to flourish. When truth and warmth meet, the words become a bridge, not a wall. And bridges carry us closer to understanding, love, and trust. As he sat quietly, Daniel reflected on a lesson he had learned from listening yesterday. To speak well, you must first listen well. When you hear someone fully, you understand what matters to them. Then, when you speak, your words have meaning. They are not empty. They are not defensive. They are not rushed. They are deliberate, thoughtful, and alive. Speaking honestly and kindly is a dialogue, a dance between hearts, not a monologue of ego or fear. Daniel felt grateful that life had given him these small, practical lessons, teaching him step by step how to grow in his relationships. The day ended gently, with Daniel returning home to a quiet, warm room. He made himself a simple dinner and sat at the table, thinking about the practice he would continue tomorrow. He whispered softly, "Speak with honesty. Speak with kindness. Speak to connect, not to win." He felt a soft warmth in his chest, a quiet confidence that comes from taking meaningful steps forward. And as he closed his eyes that night, he understood that every healthy relationship requires courage, not just courage to listen, but courage to speak from the heart with respect and love. And so, Daniel's journey continued. He had discovered the third essential lesson of healthy relationships. Honesty and kindness in speech are the bridges that connect hearts and minds. With this understanding, he felt ready for the next part of his journey, knowing that listening and speaking together create a rhythm of connection that can transform every interaction. And as the stars appeared in the night sky, he drifted into sleep, holding this truth gently in his heart, ready to wake tomorrow and take the next step. The morning sun crept slowly through Daniel's window, painting his room with soft golden light. He woke up with a gentle sense of curiosity, ready for the lessons of the day. Over the past 3 days, he had learned the importance of being present, of listening with the heart, and of speaking honestly and kindly. These lessons had changed the way he saw the world, and more importantly, the way he experienced relationships. But as he sat up, stretching slowly, he realized that there was something else he needed to understand. Healthy relationships are not only about giving attention, listening, and speaking with care. They are also about knowing when to say yes and when to say no. They're about setting boundaries, not to push people away, but to protect the heart, the mind, and the connection itself. Today, Daniel felt that he would learn the delicate art of boundaries, the quiet courage of saying what is necessary with love. After his morning tea, Daniel walked toward the park again. The streets were peaceful, and the air smelled faintly of fresh flowers and baking bread. As he walked, he remembered a few moments from his own life when he had felt overwhelmed or drained by other people's demands. Sometimes he said yes even when he wanted to say no, just to avoid conflict or to be liked. Sometimes he allowed people to speak to him in ways that hurt, because he didn't want to upset them. And sometimes he ignored his own feelings just to keep the peace. Daniel realized that these choices had consequences. Over time, small yes that weren't truly his own had created stress, confusion, and hidden resentment. And now he wondered, how could he protect himself and still remain loving, kind, and connected? As he reached the park, he noticed a mother and her daughter sitting under a tree. The little girl was reaching for something on the ground, but the mother kept saying, "No, not now," or "Be careful," in a way that seemed rushed. Daniel paused and watched quietly. The mother clearly cared, but she was also tired, busy, and anxious. And yet, she was trying to teach her daughter a boundary, to protect her from harm, without shutting her out. Daniel realized that boundaries were not walls. They were fences, soft and protective, that gave space for safety, growth, and respect. And this thought stayed with him as he walked deeper into the park. Later, he saw a small group of friends sitting together, laughing loudly. One friend kept asking another to join in something that the second friend clearly didn't want to do. He hesitated, smiled nervously, but finally agreed. Daniel noticed the tension in his posture, the small discomfort in his eyes, and he understood. Even in friendships, boundaries were necessary. Saying yes when you want to say no, or no when you want to say yes, changes the energy of a relationship. It creates confusion. It reduces trust. And it makes people feel disconnected from each other and from themselves. Healthy relationships require clarity, honesty, and the courage to honor your own feelings as well as others' feelings. As he sat near the fountain, Daniel remembered his conversation with Nora. He realized that boundaries are also about timing and space. Sometimes people need room to breathe, to process, or to be alone. Respecting these spaces is as important as speaking your truth. A relationship is not about constant closeness or constant approval. It is about trust, love, and mutual respect. And this understanding began to settle in Daniel's heart like a soft, comforting light. Boundaries were not about rejection. They were about protection, care, and clarity. They were about giving love without losing yourself. Later that afternoon, Daniel returned home and decided to try a small exercise. He thought about a situation where he often felt drained. It was with a friend who frequently asked for favors that Daniel didn't have the time or energy for. He realized he had always said yes out of politeness, but this yes felt heavy in his heart. Today, he would try something new. He picked up the phone and spoke slowly, clearly, and gently. "I want to help, but I cannot today. I hope you understand." The words felt strange at first, but when he said them, he noticed something remarkable. There was no anger, no shame, just clarity and calmness. The friend replied with understanding, perhaps even surprise, but there was no tension. Daniel felt relief, a lightness in his chest that he had never felt before. Setting boundaries, he realized, was a gift not only to himself but also to the other person, because it created honesty, trust, and respect. As evening approached, Daniel took a quiet walk along the river. The water reflected the changing sky, pink and soft, and he thought about the deeper meaning of boundaries. They were not just about saying no. They were also about saying yes to the right things, at the right time, with the right people. They were about giving your energy, attention, and love to what truly matters and letting go of what drains or distracts. He understood that every healthy relationship required this balance, giving and receiving, closeness and space, speaking and listening, caring and protecting. Boundaries were the invisible threads that held these delicate balances together. Daniel remembered moments in his family life when he had felt guilty for saying no. But now he realized that guilt often comes from misunderstanding. Saying no, when done with love and clarity, is not unkind. It is honesty. It is self-respect. It is care. And he thought of Mrs. Harper, whose gentle words about presence had begun this journey. Presence, listening, honesty, kindness, and boundaries, these were not separate skills. They were threads of the same fabric, weaving together the patterns of healthy relationships. And today, he had learned that boundaries were not fences that block love, they were bridges that protect it. That night, Daniel sat quietly at his table, writing in his notebook. He reflected on the day and thought about how he would apply these lessons tomorrow. He wrote, "Boundaries are love. Boundaries are courage. Boundaries are respect." And he realized that life would always test these boundaries. Sometimes people might feel hurt or confused when you assert them. Sometimes you might feel guilt, doubt, or fear. But every time you speak with care, every time you hold your truth with kindness, you strengthen your relationships instead of weakening them. Healthy relationships thrive when people know themselves, honor themselves, and give themselves space to grow. Before sleeping, Daniel closed his eyes and whispered softly, "I will protect myself with love. I will give to others with love. I will be honest, present, and kind. And I will remember that boundaries are not walls, they are bridges." He felt a calmness he had never known before, a quiet confidence that tomorrow would bring new lessons, and that his journey to understand healthy relationships was growing deeper with every thought, every choice, and every moment of awareness. And so, Daniel discovered the fourth essential lesson of healthy relationships. Setting boundaries with love protects both your heart and the hearts of those you care about. With this knowledge, he fell asleep peacefully, ready to continue his journey and explore the next dimension of connection, trust, and mutual care. The morning air was cool and soft as Daniel woke up, stretching slowly and taking a deep breath. The sky outside his window was painted with soft shades of pink and gold. He felt calm, but also excited, because he sensed that today's lesson would be different. Up to now, he had learned about being present, listening with his heart, speaking honestly and kindly, and setting boundaries with love. Each lesson had opened a new part of him, a part that wanted to connect more deeply with others without losing himself. But there was one thing he realized was missing: trust. Trust was invisible, yet it held everything together. You could see a relationship, you could hear a conversation, you could feel presence and kindness, but without trust, it would all feel fragile, like a glass waiting to break. Today, Daniel felt ready to understand how trust grows, how it is protected, and how it can transform relationships into something strong, meaningful, and lasting. He made his morning tea slowly, enjoying the warm smell rising from the cup. As he walked through the quiet streets toward the river, he thought about the word trust. What did it really mean? It wasn't just believing someone would keep a promise or that they wouldn't hurt you. Trust was deeper. It was about feeling safe with someone. It was about opening your heart, even a little, and knowing that the other person would hold it gently. It was about courage, patience, and faith in the invisible threads that connect people. Daniel thought about his past friendships, his family, and the people he had met in the park. He realized that trust had always been present in some moments and missing in others. And he wondered how he could learn to nurture it fully, not just expect it to appear on its own. As he walked along the river, Daniel saw a man sitting quietly on a bench. The man was reading a letter and seemed nervous, turning it over in his hands again and again. Daniel greeted him with a soft, "Good morning." The man looked up, surprised, and returned a small smile. After a moment, he asked Daniel to sit down. They began to talk quietly. The man shared something personal, something he had not told many people. As he spoke, Daniel listened carefully, without judgment, without interruption, without giving advice. He only listened. And something beautiful happened. The man's shoulders relaxed, his voice softened, and he seemed to breathe more freely. Daniel realized that trust begins with being fully present, with holding someone's words gently, and with allowing them to be seen without pressure. Trust is earned, moment by moment, in quiet, careful ways. Later, Daniel met his friend Nora again in the park. She had brought a small notebook, and she smiled as she saw him. "I wanted to show you something," she said. She opened the notebook, and inside were drawings, sketches of moments in her life, some happy, some sad. Daniel looked at them quietly, noticing the details, the care, and the honesty in each drawing. Nora said softly, "I didn't show this to many people. I trust you." Daniel felt warmth in his chest. He realized that trust was like a seed. It grows when people feel safe, seen, and respected. And the seed could only grow if it was nurtured with presence, listening, honesty, kindness, and respect for boundaries. He understood that all the lessons he had learned so far were connected. They were steps that led naturally to trust, the invisible thread that binds hearts together. As the afternoon sun rose higher, Daniel decided to practice trust in a small, deliberate way. He called his younger brother, who often kept his feelings hidden. When his brother answered, Daniel spoke softly, without any pressure. "I want you to know that I'm here if you ever want to talk. No rush, no questions unless you're ready." There was silence on the other end, but after a moment, his brother whispered, "Thanks. I appreciate that." Daniel didn't push further. He didn't ask for explanations. He simply listened, holding space, and trusted that his brother would come forward when he was ready. In that moment, Daniel realized that trust is often quiet. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't rush or force. It waits patiently, like a river flowing under the surface, steady, strong, and unseen until it touches the right place at the right time. Walking home in the evening, Daniel reflected on the moments of the day. He thought about the river, the man on the bench, Nora's drawings, and the conversation with his brother. He realized that trust is fragile and precious, but also resilient when it is treated with care. He remembered times in his life when trust had been broken, small lies, forgotten promises, or careless words, and he remembered the pain and distance they caused. But he also remembered moments when trust had been honored, friends who listened, family who held him gently, teachers who believed in him, and he remembered the warmth, safety, and connection that grew from these moments. Trust, he thought, is both a gift and a responsibility. Giving it too quickly or carelessly can hurt, but withholding it forever can also prevent love from growing. That night, as Daniel sat by the window watching the stars, he considered another aspect of trust, self-trust. He realized that trusting others is important, but trusting yourself is just as essential. Self-trust means believing in your own choices, listening to your feelings, respecting your boundaries, and speaking your truth. Without self-trust, you cannot fully trust others because doubt and fear will always cloud your heart. And just as trust between people grows slowly and carefully, self-trust grows in the same way. Every small decision, every gentle affirmation, every honest reflection strengthens it. Daniel smiled softly as he understood that building trust in relationships begins within yourself. Only then can you create bonds that are strong, lasting, and filled with love. Before falling asleep, Daniel whispered softly to himself, "Trust is the invisible thread that connects hearts. It is patient, gentle, and strong. It grows when we are present, listen, speak honestly, respect boundaries, and care for ourselves and others." He felt a quiet peace settle in his chest. The day had been full, yet calm. Each lesson he had learned so far had led naturally to this understanding, and he felt grateful for the journey. Trust, he realized, was not a goal to achieve. It was a living, breathing part of every relationship, nurtured by every action, every word, and every moment of attention. And so, Daniel discovered the fifth essential lesson of healthy relationships. Trust is the invisible thread that connects hearts, and it grows through presence, listening, honesty, kindness, and boundaries. With this understanding, he fell asleep peacefully, holding the invisible thread gently in his heart, ready to continue his journey of love, connection, and meaningful relationships in the days to come. The morning light crept gently through Daniel's window, soft and warm, and he woke up with a calm feeling inside. Over the past few days, he had discovered lessons about presence, listening, honesty, boundaries, and trust. Each lesson had helped him understand what it takes to build and maintain healthy relationships. But as he sat quietly in his room sipping his tea, he realized that there was something else he needed to explore: forgiveness. Forgiveness is not always easy. It is not just about saying, "It's okay," or pretending that nothing hurt. Forgiveness is deeper. It is a way to free your own heart while still caring for others. Daniel thought that today, he would try to understand how forgiveness works and how it can heal relationships and hearts alike. He stepped outside, feeling the crisp morning air on his face, and began walking slowly to the park. The streets were quiet, and the sound of leaves rustling in the wind made the world feel gentle and alive. Daniel thought about the times he had been hurt by friends or family, small moments when words or actions had caused pain. Sometimes he had kept the anger inside, holding it tightly like a heavy stone. Other times, he had tried to forget the pain, but it kept returning like an unwelcome visitor. And he realized that carrying these feelings made it difficult to be present, to listen fully, or to trust again. Forgiveness, he thought, might be the key to lightening this weight. As he walked through the park, Daniel noticed an elderly man sitting on a bench, feeding birds. The man smiled at him, and Daniel greeted him warmly. After a moment, the man began speaking quietly. He talked about a disagreement he had had with a longtime friend. He said he still felt hurt, even though the argument had happened many years ago. Daniel listened carefully, without judgment, and then asked gently, "Do you think forgiveness might help you feel lighter?" The man paused, looking thoughtful, and then nodded slowly. "I think so," he said. "But it is difficult. I want to forgive, but I am afraid it will make me seem weak." Daniel realized that many people feel this way. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is strength. It takes courage to let go of anger and pain, especially when you have been hurt deeply. And it is one of the most important steps to maintaining healthy relationships. Later, Daniel met Nora by the fountain. She looked a little sad, and he asked if she was okay. She told him about an argument she had with her sister. Words had been spoken that caused hurt, and now there was silence between them. Daniel listened quietly, nodding, and then said softly, "Maybe forgiveness is not about forgetting. Maybe it is about understanding and letting go so your heart can breathe." Nora looked at him with wide eyes. "Letting go, that sounds so hard," she said. Daniel smiled gently. "It is hard, but it is also freeing. You can forgive without saying it out loud at first. You can forgive in your heart. And when the time is right, words can follow." They sat quietly for a while, watching the water ripple and feeling the gentle breeze, realizing that forgiveness often begins in silence, deep within, before it is spoken. As the afternoon sun rose, Daniel thought about the moments in his life when he had needed forgiveness. He remembered times when he had made mistakes, said hurtful words, or acted without thinking. He had felt guilty and ashamed. And then he remembered the times when someone forgave him with a kind heart, not judgment, not anger, but with understanding and warmth. The feeling had been like a gentle hand lifting a weight from his chest, and he understood now that forgiveness works both ways. Giving it heals others. Receiving it heals yourself. And in this way, relationships grow stronger, deeper, and more compassionate. Later in the day, Daniel decided to practice forgiveness in a small, intentional way. He thought about a friend who had hurt him in the past. For a moment, the old feelings of anger and frustration returned, but then he took a deep breath and reminded himself that holding on to these feelings only made his heart heavier. He whispered softly to himself, "I forgive you," not because it excuses the mistake, but because I choose to free myself from this weight. And as he said these words in his heart, he felt a warmth spread through his chest. The heaviness that had lingered for months began to lighten. Forgiveness, he realized, was not about the other person. It was about creating space for peace, love, and understanding within your own heart. Walking back home as the sun began to set, Daniel reflected on the day's lessons. He thought about presence, listening, honesty, boundaries, trust, and now forgiveness. He realized that forgiveness ties all the other lessons together. Without it, resentment can block presence, cloud listening, weaken trust, and make speaking honestly or setting boundaries more difficult. But with forgiveness, the heart becomes open again. The energy of relationships flows freely and connections grow stronger. Forgiveness is like a gentle river that washes away the pain and nourishes the seeds of understanding and love. That night, Daniel sat quietly in his room, writing in his notebook. He wrote about the moments of the day, the people he had observed, and the lessons he had learned. He thought about forgiveness not as a one-time act, but as a practice, something to return to whenever pain arises. He whispered softly to himself, "I choose to forgive, to heal, and to grow. I choose to let go of anger and open my heart." Forgiveness is love in action. And as he closed his notebook and looked out the window at the quiet stars, he felt a deep sense of peace, a gentle calmness that comes when the heart is light and free. Before falling asleep, Daniel reflected once more on the journey he had taken so far. He had learned to be present, to listen deeply, to speak honestly and kindly, to set boundaries, to build trust, and now to forgive. Each lesson had been like a small step on a long path, leading him toward healthier, stronger, and more meaningful relationships. And he realized that the practice of forgiveness was not just about others, it was also about himself. By forgiving, he was learning to accept imperfection, to embrace humanity, and to nurture his own heart with love and care. And so, Daniel discovered the sixth essential lesson of healthy relationships. Forgiveness heals hearts, frees the spirit, and strengthens connections. With this understanding, he fell asleep peacefully, holding a gentle warmth in his heart, ready to continue his journey of learning, love, and deep connection in the days to come. The morning light filtered softly through Daniel's window, filling his room with warmth and quiet calm. As he woke and stretched, he felt a gentle awareness in his heart. Over the past days, he had explored presence, listening, honesty, boundaries, trust, and forgiveness. Each lesson had deepened his understanding of relationships and had opened new ways of connecting with the people he cared about. But today, as he sipped his morning tea and looked out the window at the soft movement of the trees, he realized that one simple but powerful lesson remained: appreciation. Gratitude is not just saying thank you politely. It is a deep feeling, a way of seeing and honoring the value in others. It is a gift that nourishes both the giver and the receiver. And Daniel felt that learning to appreciate others would bring even more warmth and strength to the bonds he was building. He decided to take a walk through the park, as he had done many mornings before. The air was cool and soft, filled with the faint scent of flowers and the gentle rustle of leaves. As he walked along the familiar paths, he noticed small details he had never really paid attention to before: the careful way a gardener tended the flowers, the laughter of children chasing each other across the grass, the soft ripple of the fountain water reflecting the sunlight. Each small moment seemed beautiful, and Daniel realized that appreciation begins with noticing, with paying attention, and with valuing what is present in each moment. Gratitude, he thought, is like a lens through which life feels fuller, warmer, and richer. As he walked further, he saw a woman sitting on a bench feeding pigeons. She smiled warmly at him, and he returned the smile. Daniel noticed how gently she scattered the seeds and how the birds responded calmly, without fear. He walked closer and said softly, "It's wonderful to see you caring for them like this." The woman's face lit up with surprise and happiness. "Thank you," she said. "I just like seeing them happy." Daniel realized that appreciation is not about grand words or dramatic gestures. Sometimes it is simply noticing and acknowledging what others do with care and sincerity. A simple word, a gentle recognition, can brighten someone's day, strengthen bonds, and make hearts feel lighter. Later, Daniel met his friend Nora at the fountain. She was holding her notebook, filled with sketches from the last few days. Daniel looked at her drawings and said, "These are beautiful. You have such a careful eye for detail and life." Nora's face softened, and she smiled shyly. "Thank you, Daniel," she said. "That means a lot." In that moment, Daniel felt the power of appreciation. It was not just the words, it was the acknowledgement of effort, attention, and care. He realized that healthy relationships thrive when people feel seen, valued, and recognized. Appreciation is the quiet fuel that keeps trust, respect, and love alive. As the afternoon sun rose, Daniel thought about his family. He remembered small acts of love and care: his mother preparing meals with patience, his father quietly fixing things around the house, his younger sister sharing her laughter even when she was tired. Daniel decided to express his gratitude to them. During lunch, he spoke slowly and sincerely. "Thank you for everything you do for me. I notice it, and it means a lot." His family looked pleasantly surprised. They smiled, their eyes softening, and the table felt warmer, lighter. Daniel realized that appreciation is also about timing and attention. It is easy to take people for granted when they are always present. But speaking gratitude, however simple, can transform ordinary moments into deeper connections. Walking home in the late afternoon, Daniel reflected on the day. He thought about the lessons of appreciation and how they connected to everything he had learned so far. Being present allows you to notice. Listening allows you to understand. Speaking honestly and kindly allows you to share feelings. Boundaries protect energy and respect. Trust allows you to open your heart. Forgiveness clears pain. And now, appreciation adds color, warmth, and life to all these threads. Gratitude is not a small thing. It is a cornerstone of healthy relationships. Without it, people may feel unnoticed, unvalued, or taken for granted. With it, even small acts become meaningful and hearts grow closer. As night approached, Daniel sat quietly by his window, looking at the stars. He thought about the day's moments, the people he had seen, and the lessons he had practiced. He whispered softly to himself, "I appreciate the people in my life. I notice the small things they do. I value their care, their love, and their presence." He felt a warm feeling in his chest, a gentle joy that spread through his heart. He understood that appreciation is not about perfection. People will make mistakes. Words may be unclear. Actions may sometimes fail. But noticing effort, care, and love and expressing gratitude sincerely strengthens connection in ways that last far beyond any single moment. Before sleeping, Daniel wrote in his notebook, "Appreciation is the heart's recognition of love, care, and presence. It is a gift I give and receive. It is simple yet powerful. It transforms relationships and hearts alike." He thought about the ripple effect of gratitude, how one simple acknowledgement could brighten a day, deepen a friendship, and create trust and warmth. Appreciation, he realized, is like sunlight that warms everything it touches, making relationships grow strong, vibrant, and full of life. Walking home in the late afternoon, Daniel reflected on the day. He thought about the lessons of appreciation and how they connected to everything he had learned so far. Being present allows you to notice. Listening allows you to understand. Speaking honestly and kindly allows you to share feelings. Boundaries protect energy and respect. Trust allows you to open your heart. Forgiveness clears pain. And now, appreciation adds color, warmth, and life to all these threads. Gratitude is not a small thing. It is a cornerstone of healthy relationships. Without it, people may feel unnoticed, unvalued, or taken for granted. With it, even small acts become meaningful and hearts grow closer. As night approached, Daniel sat quietly by his window, looking at the stars. He thought about the day's moments, the people he had seen, and the lessons he had practiced. He whispered softly to himself, "I appreciate the people in my life. I notice the small things they do. I value their care, their love, and their presence." He felt a warm feeling in his chest, a gentle joy that spread through his heart. He understood that appreciation is not about perfection. People will make mistakes. Words may be unclear. Actions may sometimes fail. But noticing effort, care, and love and expressing gratitude sincerely strengthens connection in ways that last far beyond any single moment. Before sleeping, Daniel wrote in his notebook, "Appreciation is the heart's recognition of love, care, and presence. It is a gift I give and receive. It is simple yet powerful. It transforms relationships and hearts alike." He thought about the ripple effect of gratitude, how one simple acknowledgement could brighten a day, deepen a friendship, and create trust and warmth. Appreciation, he realized, is like sunlight that warms everything it touches, making relationships grow strong, vibrant, and full of life. And so, Daniel discovered the seventh essential lesson of healthy relationships. Appreciation brings warmth, recognition, and love to every connection. With this understanding, he felt a gentle joy in his heart, ready to continue his journey, ready to notice, value, and express gratitude in every interaction, and ready to deepen the bonds of love and friendship in his life. The morning sunlight poured gently through Daniel's window, waking him with warmth and quiet energy. As he stretched and took a deep breath, he felt a soft awareness in his heart. Over the past several days, he had learned about being present, listening, speaking honestly and kindly, setting boundaries, building trust, forgiving, and appreciating others. Each lesson had deepened his understanding of relationships and helped him grow. But as Daniel looked out at the calm streets and the soft movement of the trees, he realized that there was still something crucial to learn: patience. Relationships, he thought, cannot be rushed. They grow slowly, like a tree that begins as a small seed and takes time to become strong, deep-rooted, and full of life. Today, Daniel felt ready to explore the gentle art of patience and how it strengthens connections over time. He prepared his morning tea slowly, savoring the warmth and aroma, and stepped outside. The air was cool and fresh, carrying the faint scent of flowers and damp earth. As he walked toward the park, he noticed small details he had sometimes overlooked: the way sunlight filtered through leaves, the gentle movement of birds in the trees, the quiet flow of the river. Daniel realized that patience begins with noticing. When you slow down, you see more, feel more, and understand more. Life, he thought, cannot be hurried, and neither can relationships. To nurture trust, appreciation, forgiveness, and understanding, one must allow time for growth and change. As he reached the park, Daniel noticed a young boy trying to fly a kite. The wind was not strong, and the kite kept falling. The boy grew frustrated and began to frown, almost ready to give up. Daniel walked closer and said softly, "Sometimes kites take time to fly. You need patience and gentle practice." The boy nodded slowly and tried again. He failed a few more times, but Daniel stayed nearby, encouraging gently without pushing. Finally, the kite lifted into the sky. The boy's face lit up with joy, and Daniel smiled. Watching this, he understood that patience is not passive. It is active care. It is staying with someone, encouraging them gently, and allowing them space and time to grow, learn, and succeed. Relationships, he realized, require the same gentle persistence. Later, Daniel met Nora at the fountain. She seemed a little anxious, fidgeting with her notebook. Daniel noticed and asked softly, "Are you okay?" She explained that she had been trying to learn a new skill but felt frustrated that progress was slow. Daniel listened carefully and said, "It takes time to grow. Patience does not mean doing nothing. It means allowing yourself the space to practice, to fail, and to improve. Growth comes slowly, step by step." Nora smiled and nodded, feeling reassured. Daniel realized that patience is not only about others. It is also about oneself. Sometimes we are hardest on ourselves, wanting instant results, instant understanding, or instant connection. But love, trust, and growth need time. They cannot be forced or rushed. Patience, he thought, is the quiet strength that allows hearts to open slowly and safely. As the afternoon sun warmed the park, Daniel thought about past moments in his life when he had been impatient, times when he had wanted a friend to understand him immediately, or when he had hoped that relationships would grow overnight. He remembered how frustration and disappointment had built up, creating tension and distance. And he remembered times when patience had allowed connections to flourish, when he had waited for someone to share their feelings, or when he had given himself time to understand and forgive. The results were always better, calmer, and deeper when he allowed the natural flow of time. Patience, he realized, is like water flowing steadily into the roots of a tree. It nourishes quietly, deeply, and persistently. Later, Daniel decided to practice patience intentionally. He called his younger brother, who was struggling with homework and felt discouraged. Daniel spoke slowly, without rushing, offering guidance and encouragement. "Take your time," he said. "Mistakes are okay. Every small step helps you learn." He waited while his brother worked, letting him find his own solutions, only offering help when asked. Daniel noticed the change in his brother's attitude. The tension softened, frustration eased, and confidence grew. Patience, he realized, is an act of respect. It honors the other person's pace, feelings, and process. It creates space for growth, understanding, and trust. Walking home as the sun began to set, Daniel reflected on the day's lessons. He thought about the kite, Nora, his brother, and his own past experiences. He understood that patience is a thread that weaves through all aspects of healthy relationships. Without patience, presence becomes hurried, listening becomes distracted, honesty can feel harsh, boundaries may seem rigid, trust struggles to form, forgiveness feels forced, and appreciation loses its warmth. With patience, each of these elements has time to grow, deepen, and flourish naturally. Patience, he thought, is not just waiting, it is active care, gentle attention, and enduring love. That evening, Daniel sat quietly by the window, watching the stars appear one by one. He thought about the slow growth of relationships, the small daily actions that strengthen bonds, and the quiet persistence required to nurture hearts over time. He whispered softly to himself, "I will be patient, with others, with myself, and with every relationship I care about. I will allow time, understanding, and gentle care to guide me." He felt a deep sense of calm settle in his heart, a quiet confidence that came from understanding the power of patience in every connection. Before sleeping, Daniel wrote in his notebook, "Patience allows relationships to grow naturally. It respects the pace of others and the rhythm of life. It strengthens trust, appreciation, forgiveness, and love. Patience is the quiet power that nurtures hearts together." He closed his notebook and looked out the window, feeling the gentle peace of a day well lived, ready to continue his journey with patience as a guiding light. And so, Daniel discovered the 8th essential lesson of healthy relationships. Patience allows love, trust, and understanding to grow slowly, deeply, and strongly. With this understanding, he drifted to sleep peacefully, holding the gentle rhythm of patience in his heart, ready to face each day with calm awareness, care, and enduring connection. The morning light filled Daniel's room with soft warmth, and he woke slowly, feeling calm but curious. Over the past days, he had learned many important lessons about healthy relationships, being present, listening carefully, speaking honestly and kindly, setting boundaries, building trust, forgiving, appreciating, and practicing patience. Each lesson had added a layer of understanding and had helped him grow as a friend, a brother, and a human being. But as Daniel sipped his morning tea and gazed out the window at the gentle movement of trees in the breeze, he realized there was one more lesson he needed to explore deeply: empathy. Empathy is the ability to feel and understand what another person feels. It is like stepping into someone else's shoes, seeing the world from their perspective, and responding with kindness and understanding. Daniel knew that empathy was a thread that connected all the other lessons he had learned, and he felt ready to discover how it could transform relationships. He walked slowly through the quiet streets toward the park, noticing small things around him: a bird perched on a branch, the sound of children's laughter, the smell of flowers from a nearby garden. Daniel thought about how often he had listened without truly understanding, or spoken without considering another person's feelings. Empathy, he realized, requires slowing down and paying attention not only to words, but to emotions, gestures, and unspoken signals. It is about feeling the other person's joy, sadness, or frustration as if it were your own, and responding with care and understanding. This, he thought, is what makes relationships deep, meaningful, and lasting. As he entered the park, Daniel noticed an elderly woman sitting on a bench, looking a little lonely. He approached her gently and greeted her, "Good morning. How are you today?" She smiled faintly, and he sat nearby, listening quietly. She began to speak about her day, about how she missed her family and felt forgotten at times. Daniel listened carefully, nodding and offering small words of encouragement. He did not try to solve her problems or give advice. Instead, he simply acknowledged her feelings, saying, "I can understand why that would feel lonely. It must be difficult to miss your family." The woman's expression softened, and she looked relieved to be heard and understood. Daniel realized in that moment that empathy is not about fixing things. It is about feeling with someone, offering presence, and showing care. This, he understood, is the heart of deep connection. Later, Daniel met Nora at the fountain. She looked thoughtful, and he asked gently, "Is something on your mind?" She shared that she had a disagreement with a friend and was feeling hurt. Daniel listened carefully, imagining how she must feel. He spoke slowly, with care. "I can understand why that would be upsetting. You care about your friend, and it hurts when someone misunderstands you." Nora's face softened, and she nodded. Daniel realized that empathy strengthens trust and deepens bonds because it shows the other person that their feelings are valid and seen. People feel safe and connected when they know someone truly understands them, and that understanding cannot come without patience, attention, and presence. As the afternoon sun warmed the park, Daniel thought about times in his life when empathy had been missing. He remembered arguments with friends where he had focused only on his own feelings, failing to see the other person's perspective. He remembered moments of frustration when he had assumed someone's intentions without asking or listening. These experiences had created distance, misunderstanding, and tension. But he also remembered times when empathy had been present, when a friend had listened carefully, acknowledged his feelings, and responded with kindness. Those moments had felt safe, warm, and deeply connected. Daniel understood that empathy is a skill and a practice, something that grows stronger with awareness and intentional effort. Later, Daniel decided to practice empathy actively. He called his younger brother, who was feeling upset about a small conflict at school. Instead of giving advice or telling him what to do, Daniel listened carefully. He repeated what he heard, saying, "It sounds like you felt frustrated when your friend didn't include you. That must have hurt." His brother's tone softened, and he nodded. By reflecting his brother's feelings, Daniel helped him feel seen and understood. Daniel realized that empathy is not about agreeing or solving problems. It is about connecting with the other person's emotions and offering support, understanding, and care. In that moment, he felt a deeper connection with his brother, and he knew that empathy strengthens relationships in a way that words alone cannot. Walking home as the sun began to set, Daniel reflected on the day's experiences. He thought about the elderly woman, Nora, and his brother, and he realized that empathy touches all aspects of healthy relationships. It is the bridge between presence and listening, between honesty and kindness, between trust and patience. Without empathy, people may feel unseen, misunderstood, or disconnected. With empathy, even small interactions can create warmth, safety, and lasting connection. Daniel understood that empathy is not only about others, it also requires self-empathy, understanding, and being kind to your own feelings. Only when you can empathize with yourself can you fully extend that care to others. That night, Daniel sat quietly by the window, writing in his notebook. He reflected on the lessons of the day and whispered softly to himself, "I will practice empathy. I will listen carefully, imagine the feelings of others, and respond with understanding and care. I will try to see the world through their eyes and honor their experiences." A gentle calmness filled his chest as he understood the power of empathy to deepen trust, strengthen bonds, and create meaningful relationships. He realized that empathy is a quiet, steady force, not always visible, but always felt by those it touches. Before sleeping, Daniel wrote in his notebook, "Empathy allows us to connect deeply with others. It is listening, feeling, and understanding. It strengthens trust, patience, forgiveness, and love. Through empathy, relationships grow warm, safe, and lasting." He closed his notebook, feeling the gentle glow of understanding in his heart, ready to carry empathy into every conversation, every relationship, and every moment of his life. And so, Daniel discovered the ninth essential lesson of healthy relationships. Empathy allows us to feel with others, understand their experiences, and respond with kindness and care. With this understanding, he drifted to sleep peacefully, holding empathy as a quiet, powerful thread connecting hearts and guiding every interaction with love and curious. Over the past days, he had learned many important lessons about healthy relationships, being present, listening carefully, speaking honestly and kindly, setting boundaries, building trust, forgiving, appreciating, and practicing patience. Each lesson had added a layer of understanding and had helped him grow as a friend, a brother, and a human being. But as Daniel sipped his morning tea and gazed out the window at the gentle movement of trees in the breeze, he realized there was one more lesson he needed to explore deeply: empathy. Empathy is the ability to feel and understand what another person feels. It is like stepping into someone else's shoes, seeing the world from their perspective, and responding with kindness and understanding. Daniel knew that empathy was a thread that connected all the other lessons he had learned, and he felt ready to discover how it could transform relationships. He walked slowly through the quiet streets toward the park, noticing small things around him: a bird perched on a branch, the sound of children's laughter, the smell of flowers from a nearby garden. Daniel thought about how often he had listened without truly understanding, or spoken without considering another person's feelings. Empathy, he realized, requires slowing down and paying attention not only to words, but to emotions, gestures, and unspoken signals. It is about feeling the other person's joy, sadness, or frustration as if it were your own, and responding with care and understanding. This, he thought, is what makes relationships deep, meaningful, and lasting. As he entered the park, Daniel noticed an elderly woman sitting on a bench, looking a little lonely. He approached her gently and greeted her, "Good morning. How are you today?" She smiled faintly, and he sat nearby, listening quietly. She began to speak about her day, about how she missed her family and felt forgotten at times. Daniel listened carefully, nodding and offering small words of encouragement. He did not try to solve her problems or give advice. Instead, he simply acknowledged her feelings, saying, "I can understand why that would feel lonely. It must be difficult to miss your family." The woman's expression softened, and she looked relieved to be heard and understood. Daniel realized in that moment that empathy is not about fixing things. It is about feeling with someone, offering presence, and showing care. This, he understood, is the heart of deep connection. Later, Daniel met Nora at the fountain. She looked thoughtful, and he asked gently, "Is something on your mind?" She shared that she had a disagreement with a friend and was feeling hurt. Daniel listened carefully, imagining how she must feel. He spoke slowly, with care. "I can understand why that would be upsetting. You care about your friend, and it hurts when someone misunderstands you." Nora's face softened, and she nodded. Daniel realized that empathy strengthens trust and deepens bonds because it shows the other person that their feelings are valid and seen. People feel safe and connected when they know someone truly understands them, and that understanding cannot come without patience, attention, and presence. As the afternoon sun warmed the park, Daniel thought about times in his life when empathy had been missing. He remembered arguments with friends where he had focused only on his own feelings, failing to see the other person's perspective. He remembered moments of frustration when he had assumed someone's intentions without asking or listening. These experiences had created distance, misunderstanding, and tension. But he also remembered times when empathy had been present, when a friend had listened carefully, acknowledged his feelings, and responded with kindness. Those moments had felt safe, warm, and deeply connected. Daniel understood that empathy is a skill and a practice, something that grows stronger with awareness and intentional effort. Later, Daniel decided to practice empathy actively. He called his younger brother, who was feeling upset about a small conflict at school. Instead of giving advice or telling him what to do, Daniel listened carefully. He repeated what he heard, saying, "It sounds like you felt frustrated when your friend didn't include you. That must have hurt." His brother's tone softened, and he nodded. By reflecting his brother's feelings, Daniel helped him feel seen and understood. Daniel realized that empathy is not about agreeing or solving problems. It is about connecting with the other person's emotions and offering support, understanding, and care. In that moment, he felt a deeper connection with his brother, and he knew that empathy strengthens relationships in a way that words alone cannot. Walking home as the sun began to set, Daniel reflected on the day's experiences. He thought about the elderly woman, Nora, and his brother, and he realized that empathy touches all aspects of healthy relationships. It is the bridge between presence and listening, between honesty and kindness, between trust and patience. Without empathy, people may feel unseen, misunderstood, or disconnected. With empathy, even small interactions can create warmth, safety, and lasting connection. Daniel understood that empathy is not only about others, it also requires self-empathy, understanding, and being kind to your own feelings. Only when you can empathize with yourself can you fully extend that care to others. That night, Daniel sat quietly by the window, writing in his notebook. He reflected on the lessons of the day and whispered softly to himself, "I will practice empathy. I will listen carefully, imagine the feelings of others, and respond with understanding and care. I will try to see the world through their eyes and honor their experiences." A gentle calmness filled his chest as he understood the power of empathy to deepen trust, strengthen bonds, and create meaningful relationships. He realized that empathy is a quiet, steady force, not always visible, but always felt by those it touches. Before sleeping, Daniel wrote in his notebook, "Empathy allows us to connect deeply with others. It is listening, feeling, and understanding. It strengthens trust, patience, forgiveness, and love. Through empathy, relationships grow warm, safe, and lasting." He closed his notebook, feeling the gentle glow of understanding in his heart, ready to carry empathy into every conversation, every relationship, and every moment of his life. And so, Daniel discovered the ninth essential lesson of healthy relationships. Empathy allows us to feel with others, understand their experiences, and respond with kindness and care, With this understanding, he drifted to sleep peacefully, holding empathy as a quiet, powerful thread connecting hearts and guiding every interaction with love and understanding.